Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Today, we have Rochelle Stewart. She's a director at Silicon Valley Bank. She is also an angel investor, but she's a very particular angel investor. And what she is and how I know her is she's so great at building community around angel investing and really getting women excited and organizing around it, which is no easy feat. So, and it's her very first podcast. So thank you for being on. Hi.
I couldn't think of a better way to dip my toes into podcasting, and hopefully this won't be the last. You probably don't do more than one guest per show, but thank you for having me, and I'm super excited.
Well, I did. Yesterday I had two women from Work at Health and two co-founders at the same time. So sometimes I talk about like co-founding, and they have co-CEOs or co-founders, like how you do that too. We just try to be relevant to building businesses for women, getting money in women's hands and building their wealth. So all of that, but we are very honored to have you as your very first podcast. So thank you for coming. Let's get started a little bit. Tell us about what you do right now at Silicon Valley Bank, because I think it's really, it's not like the two things are not related in what you're doing in angel investing. Yeah.
Very much related. And I feel very fortunate because I don't think anyone, we all kind of pursue and hope to find the dream job that aligns our passions professionally and personally. And I think at Silicon Valley Bank, I've been able to do so. It would look as though I orchestrated it that way and I'd end up this way, but I can tell you my career has been a jungle gym, and it certainly didn't happen on purpose, but it did happen with intention. And part of that intention was that when I had my first child, my son, Shelly, he'll be 2. And I was leaving my previous job. I said, you know what? I've been doing this like startup thing, angel investing thing, very close to the startup ecosystem, kind of on the side in addition to my day job. And a non-negotiable for me will be that it has to be a part of my day job. And I didn't know what that meant, but I just knew that it was a non-negotiable. Like I have to work with startups in my day job. I'm going to be a mom. I don't have time to create all of these different spheres that I have to manage. And through some, research and exploration, landed at Silicon Valley Bank, where, that is what I get to do. I get to work with founders every day. I get to work with investors. I get to be at the center of what we call like center of the innovation economy. It's like the first time I'd even heard that phrase, the innovation economy for, from pre-seed day one, I just started my business to IPO and exit. So I'm at a place where we really do follow founders on their journey from startup to hopefully exiting and scaling their company and helping them along every step of the way. And in my role in particular, I've been there over a year, but I'm now on a new team that is really, again, finding the dream job, where I get to explore new opportunities and new partnerships and new ways to show up in the innovation economy, and explore tap into my passion that you've already highlighted, which is, I really care about women investing. I care about, closing the gap in female funding, closing the gap for all underrepresented founders, Black and Latinx. And now I'm in a space where I actually do have the platform of SVB behind me to help me do that. So I'm no longer just this one woman show running these communities for women, which I'll always be passionate about and always continue to do. But now I have the SVB platform behind me to really hopefully move the needle in a bigger way, which I'm super excited about.
Amazing. And so what was your background before this? Start with a bank. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I started my career. Well, I guess I'll give you the personal piece of it. I was a first generation college student, so I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know that I would end up on Wall Street. Mentorship has been, and we talked about this, an important part of sort of the career moves that I've been able to make. And that very first one to go to Wall Street was influenced by a mentor of mine, Damian Dwin, who I met when I was a sophomore at Georgetown. And I say all this because I think there are so many parallels between my background, my childhood, how I grew up, and having mentorship be such a huge piece of what contributed to my success, and what makes me so passionate about supporting founders and building community is because I have this like natural affinity for being in service of others. And I know that I wouldn't be where I am, if I didn't have that sort of those giving to me and contributing to my success and being vested in my success. And so when I started my career, to answer your question, I was on Wall Street and I was in sales and trading during the whole mortgage crisis. And then I went to business school. And then after business school, I left kind of finance and went kind of wore operator hat. I decided like, let's roll up my sleeves and do away with modeling and putting marketing on a spreadsheet and actually see what marketing is really about. So I did an internship at L'Oreal. I worked in consumer, and honestly, I just pursued my passions. I mean, the intention for me was, forget the naysayers, those who say like, why would you leave finance? You're going to make this amount of money. And I'm like, I know. I actually took an internship in real estate making like $8 an hour because I thought what I wanted to pursue. And this was before business school. So not necessarily the most economically prudent decision, but one that was really important because I was able to build all of these experiences in real estate, learning about a new asset class, at L'Oreal and beauty, understanding what brand management was and how it differed from other parts of marketing, which I now know to be performance and growth marketing, but at the time I had no idea. And then pursuing my long-term stint at Condé Nast, where I was in media, and there I was in a core strategy role where I had a boot camp in all things running a media business and sort of operating cross-functionally from editorial and creative to, like being in the room with editors and the editors in chiefs to being in the room with the head of sales and talking about monetization. So honestly, I feel that I've been very fortunate to have such a cross section of functions, industries, and I try to bring that to the job I have today, but also into the work that I do with startups, given that I have this kind of varied path, if you will.
Right. So you are, what'd you say, your first generation?
College graduate. Yep.
Yeah, me too. So I am too. Now, the difference is I didn't actually have a mentor whatsoever. I literally was like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I graduated from college. I was like, I looked on TV, doctor, lawyer, banker. I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll be a lawyer. So I went to law school. That's literally how I decided, But, I think there's one thing on a theme that if you, and why I like to do this podcast is if you can see it, you can be it, So for all those first generation and college students, I did it differently. Like here's, 2 examples of women who like, I did it differently. I was like, I need a job that pays me a lot of money because
I said that too. I started on Wall Street.
Yeah. Yeah, but then you went to $8 an hour. Like, I guess I did go back because I went in and then I decided I wanted to follow a passion. And, when I went in a Wall Street firm and made a lot of money. And then I went back and I was like, I want to do the music industry, and then I had to take a really big pay cut, which then, caught back up. But, it was about passion. And I think a lot of women find that it's like, you want to have passion and purpose in your jobs as well, and it just makes it so much easier. So it's not like you're living a double life, it can't just be about money, but, it has to be in some capacity. But if you utilize that as like a stepping stone to something else, it can really turn into something great.
Yeah, so, no, you're right. And it's a privilege, I would say, right? Like I am living in New York. I'm married to someone who contributes to the household income where I don't have to think about the income quite as much as and I can make a decision personally. So I actually do feel privileged that I can say, hey, I'll take this job or I'll do this. And I don't have to anchor on money because I think sometimes we don't have that choice. So I don't take that for granted.
And also moving around, I find like women get so loyal. They're like, oh, I'm so loyal to this place. And they said they'll take care of me. It's like,
no,
be loyal to yourself, be loyal to your family, get what you need. and like
Yeah.
move if it's
Yeah.
not,
Be
you
a
know what
little
I mean? Keep
selfish.
it moving. Yeah.
Yeah, be a little selfish. It's so true. And I should clarify, I don't think it was $8 an hour. I think it was maybe 12. And then it was an internship.
It
So I
still
was in,
sucks. So,
I
you know,
know, so I was interning. It was a pre-MBA internship at CBRE. And I was working for, again, I was working for the top real estate salesperson, Darcy Stakem. And I was like, I want to get this experience. So I'm going to do an internship with college students.
yeah, I love it.
So talk about a step back, but it was so worthwhile. I learned so much.
And so when was your first angel investment?
My first angel investment was in 20, what is it, 2021? So 2019. So only 2 years ago, to be
Yeah.
honest. Or was it
What
20?
made you do it? Like so many, what made you go into it? Like so many people are like, oh, I'm scared. I don't know what, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I always, when I was at Conde, I was really big on like, how can I get closer to the startup ecosystem given the role I have here today? And so the years and times all blur, but I would say it was about 3 years ago. So that was 2018 when I made the investment. And effectively, I just said like, all right, I'm going to do these events. I'll invite startups to Conde, have them just kind of like removing barriers for others that might think like, how do I get in touch with an editor? Or there's this like aura around Conde and the brand. So we would do events with Vogue and have like fashion brands come in, startup fashion brands. And I just love doing that. And more and more what I started is I started to read, I remember the critical inflection point. It was when Vanity Fair, a Condé Nast brand, published the article about the Black women who had raised over 1 million. And they did this whole spread and it was like 20 or 21 women. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a mathematician to realize that that's a pretty staggeringly low number. And
Yeah.
honestly, I was even surprised. I was like, 20 have raised over 1 million. That it just didn't sit right with me. And the
Yeah.
more research I did, the Project Diane report came out that summer. This was all pre like this big awakening that's happened now, where now everyone's talking about the diversity stats and the lack of funding for Black founders, female founders, et cetera. At that time, it wasn't really in the press quite as much. And as I did the research, I was like, oh, wow, this is a big deal. So female founders aren't getting funded. Black women are getting like 0.002% of the fund. I
Yeah.
mean, this is sad. What can I do? And I was inspired to think about how to translate my passion for startups into impact. And for
Yeah.
me, that meant community building. How do I think about building a community for women to invest in women? And I just had this idea, but I thought like, well, I should probably start investing myself before I start building these communities. And for me, it was easy. Just start
Yeah.
writing a check. I had no hesitation whatsoever. As soon as I made the decision to sort of set out on that path to start investing, I kind of built like a one pager of like what types of companies I want to invest in. I started with mission driven first, which is why my first check was in I Fund Women, given my personal belief in funding women. So I did diligence by way of talking to the founder and like, getting to know the business, but it wasn't the type of diligence that I do now, right? That first check was really gut based. And that first check was really just getting over the hump to say, I
Yeah.
can do this. I just need to, I need to be my own proof of concept so that when I'm building these communities, they trust me and they know, oh, well, Rochelle did this path and Rochelle took these courses, or I joined a bunch of communities to really get closer to other angels. And I realized that there was a lot of gaps. And a lot of that gap
Mhm.
was there still weren't enough women investing. And there wasn't a lot of, honestly, a lot of robust communities around investing. It could be a really lonely sport. And I wanted to make it a community sport.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's funny, like, while I think that it is much more in the press about, women only getting 2%, it actually went down during COVID. There was up to like
Yeah.
2.5 billion, woo.
Yeah, it's just like
And,
hovering.
women of color getting 0.5% of that. I'm still astounded at how many men don't know that,
Yeah.
so I think we talk about it amongst women, but like
Right.
men don't know that. It
Yeah.
does not roll off their tongues. They're like, really? And I'm like, that means we have to take 200 meetings basically to your one. Like,
Yep.
that's ridiculous. It's just, and we control the purchasing power, and we, so we can hit them with our wallet. Like,
Yep.
stop buying stuff that doesn't ladder into women or building women's wealth, or that's started by men for women, all those things, which really matter, So let's talk a little bit more about what you mean by building the community. What exactly did you do to do that for angel investors?
So I started off just pressure testing the idea of it with friends and people I knew who were operators themselves, like senior executives. And I knew they probably were accredited investors, but the chances that they even knew what that was low, right? Like they're certainly meeting the income requirement, but do they know they can invest? Are they
Right.
thinking
Do you
about
want to talk about that just in case people don't know what an accredited investor is?
Yeah, so there's a lot of legalities when it comes to investing, and I would urge anyone to just kind of look at the best. What is the best resource that has kind of all of it? I'll think about it and come back to you on like
I mean,
one
you
of
can
the.
literally Google accredited
Yeah,
investor.
that's
You
true.
know what I
But there
mean?
is,
It's
I
like
feel
a
like I have a list of good ones where it's like, oh, here's all the stuff on angel investing, maybe like the ACA, Angel Capital Association or something. But in any event, it's an income requirement. And I believe it's 200K individual income and then 300K joint. And that's the minimum that you have. That's one of many qualifications that will allow you to invest in certain private assets. And those and startups and early stage businesses fall into that category of private assets, and private as opposed to public, like the stock market, right? Because it's a private asset, or obviously there's a bunch of different governance rules around it. One of those governance rules is to set up guardrails to say, well, we want to make sure that you have the income to support this, and also that we're not just opening it up so that anyone can invest and kind of be taken advantage of. And unfortunately, they use income as one of those guardrails. That is changing, and there's a lot of opportunities for non-accredited investors to invest, whether it's crowdfunding via Republic, equity crowdfunding, or whether it's taking an exam, Series 7, and I think you have to take the 7 and something else in order to sort of get that accreditation without the income requirement. So basically, moral of the story is the world is evolving. So even if you aren't an accredited investor, you could become one today. A year ago, that was a lot more difficult. And also, if you're not sure, just look it up, see what's possible, and, make the leap. Because I do think it's a rule where it's like, it's just one of those, like, it's been around and it is what it is. And it's not really protective as so much as it is exclusive, right?
Yeah,
It's keeping people
that's
out
true.
from investing.
Because when you invest, you can be like saying goodbye to that money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You say goodbye and hopefully some comes back. It's no different than you just think of it as is like giving it away to a charity. You don't know what's happening with that money.
Oh,
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So to answer your question around the community, I went first to my friends and I said, I'm thinking about starting an angel investing community for women. Would you be interested? And if so, what would that need to look like? And I treated it like a startup, right? Like I've never officially started a business, but this will probably be as close as I've come to doing so, where I did the customer research. I really did a lot of like, who is my customer, i.e. the women investors I want to target, and then what is the type of community I want to build for them, and then just getting that feedback from them. And what I learned as a part of that was that, I mean, everyone was beyond excited. Like, please sign me up tomorrow. I would love to do this. I'd love to invest. I don't know where to start. I don't know which communities exist. I mean, there was just a huge gap of knowledge and information. And yeah, you could go to Google and look these things up. But as I explored, it doesn't really give you the true, like, okay, so what am I getting out of this? If I go into Pipeline Angels and I take a boot camp, so what happens after? Do I write one check? What do I do? And there wasn't really a community piece to it, right? Like I joined 37 Angels. I went through the class. The class is amazing, but the community piece of it is missing. So I was trying to create something that I didn't think existed. And I decided to do it first with Black women because I saw, number one, the funding gap was widest for Black founders. And even though we were going to invest broadly and not just in Black women, it made sense to have a group that was all Black women because that didn't exist out there. And having this sort of messaging that like we're coming together because we want to solve this and build wealth for our community and learn together, grow together, hopefully make money together, then that will feed itself into this cycle back to our community because we all care about giving back, whether it's to the founders or just generally like thinking, oh, wow, look what I was able to do as an angel. And now I want to help someone else. So that was intentional to have this syndicate, which is the name of my Black female angel investing community, to be focused in hyper-focused in that way. And then I started the We Suite sub community, which is much more broad, but again, all women. And it was perfect because it's a mix of angel investors who have experience, those who are founders and maybe like want to invest, but just haven't done it yet. And so now I've moved away from just focused on, Black females and closing that wealth gap to really helping all women who want to invest and across the spectrum of alternative assets. So not just thinking about direct startups, but also investing in your first fund as an LP, right? Like, what does that mean to diversify your portfolio? Thinking about, we've had a lot of asks for like, oh, can we do something for financial planning? And thinking about just building your wealth, your portfolio overall. So
Right.
between those two communities, I feel to lead them, and then I'm a part of other communities, I feel that I get so much from them and so much joy just knowing that I'm able to bring these women together, and that hopefully we'll have a great story to tell about all the amazing investing we've done as a result of having a place to do it, right?
And how much have you all raised in your thing? Do you have an estimate or know how much?
Yeah, of course. Can't leave the finance girl behind. I track everything.
Amazing.
Yeah. So my syndicate, the target was to get to 500,000 amongst the members, and I got to 450. So that's basically 400. It's like a fund. You could think of it as a fund, 450K, which is like small and inconsequential, but that's quite a bit of checks to write.
No, it's not inconsequential because it's so hard for women to make money. Raise money.
Yeah. And then with the We Suite sub community of angels, we've committed and invested 750K between the community of women and founders. And of those founders, our portfolio, I think, is 11 investments and 10 of them are women. Mm-hmm. So whereas in my syndicate, it's a bit of a mix. I think it's like 60% women and then the other founders are male. But yeah. So altogether, I mean, I guess I never thought about them as a collective, but about a million plus in investments and capital connected, I guess I would call it.
Right. And all like seed angel. Yeah.
Yes. Pre-seed and seed. Correct.
Right.
Some series A snuck in there a little bit, but
yeah.
I actually like the late stage trade. And I think that that's an area where I want to lean in more because I think there's so many great opportunities to do pre-IPO trades and sort of get in where you're like, okay, well, the multiple might be lower, but the risk is mitigated. And I feel really good about where this company is going. So why not invest? And maybe you have to invest like a little more capital to get like a commensurate return, but I like late stage too.
Yeah. Well, I find also if we're just focusing on female founded, like only 4 female founded companies went public last year. 4.
No.
Yeah, it was 4.
Wow.
This year's probably going to be the same. I mean, look, that's not to say that like it's great. Like Sarah Blakely sold her company. Then it's not like she went public, but like 4.
Runway, Sarah Blakely.
How many companies go public daily? Like it's it's
we should actually that data pull at SVB. I'm glad you mentioned that because even in healthcare, right? That's one where there's so much happening. I think we did like 70% of the IPOs in the tech healthcare space.
Yeah, because we finally started like going, wait a minute, why are other people making decisions about us? We have to see it in politics. It's like, these are our bodies. Like, let us make these decisions and we make the decisions for our families' health anyway. So yeah, it's a big thing. Well, I mean, it's funny that you like to talk about mentorship and stuff, but really what you being mentored, but what you're really doing is mentoring a bunch of women, right? You're being a support group and helping like provide that space for women to talk about this stuff, did you realize that that's what you were doing as well, being a mentor?
Honestly, not really. It probably sounds weird to say it, but I think I go back to like, when I think about the community piece, I do think about like that it's building, it's kind of like I'm lifting everyone together, bringing everyone together, making the connections. That is what I like. My perspective is that that's what I'm fueling. I didn't think about it as mentoring investor. Like if you asked me to articulate it, I would have never chosen that word myself, but I guess it is some form of mentorship. And in more cases than not, when I am in a room and most of the women have never written a check or they're saying, I'm doing this for the first time, that is the reason it makes me so happy because I feel like so proud. I'm like, yes, another woman investing and, getting over the hump, which I do think that first check piece of it is a big deal, right? Like just getting used to the idea that, wow, I just wrote a check for $5,000 to invest in a company, right? Like, because the hesitation and the reservation of it all is, it is kind of unique to women. Like men don't think that way. They're like, okay, here's the check. Let's go. Let's, let's move on, go from the gut, shoot from the hip, whatever it may be. And I would say, I guess, coaching is probably the word I would use, because even when I talk to my friends and they'll be like, you're just so great at this, like you should be a leadership coach or coach. And I like the idea of being able to say, I've done these things. How can I use those things to help you in some way? And so that is a piece of it, like the coaching / mentorship, and just knowing that we as women kind of get in our own way. And especially when it comes to investing, that is certainly an area where the numbers show up, that we get in our own way. We don't feel that we're qualified, that we can make the decision, or we overthink the decision. Like, so as much as I can help women to kind of overcome some of those challenges, I don't know, I just feel there's just endless opportunity for us. And I fundamentally believe that having more women leaders in investment roles, even if it's just an angel investor, you will see this, this is a long game, right? Like this is 5 to 10 years out when you start to see the fruits of it all.
I mean, look, there's a lot of issues. There's also access, right? It's like being able to get the access to put the money in. It is our insecurity around money. We've always been told like, hey, money's icky, that, why would you want money? But it's okay for a man to be like, I want it all. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, go buy your handbags, cuties. It's like, no, we want like money for our kids too. And look, there are many women I know that have no problem, like, dumping $5,000 on a handbag. But for some reason, putting it in a female founded company seems really like daunting and scary. You got to kind of like look at it as apples to apples. It's like, do you want a possibility of getting this money back or not? Like, and you could do all of it. No one's judging you for that. But, and the more that we support each other, and then really it's about supporting each other, because we all, you've heard of the PayPal mafia, where they all gave each other, the money, and then they invest in each other's stuff, and they give each other stuff, and then they just create more and more and more and more wealth for each other. Like you can look at, there's a whole diagram, you can look it up. Like that's what we need to be doing. We need to rally around the women. We need to buy the products. We need to hire, the accountants and the lawyers and the financial planners and all of those people who ladder up to themselves, not to men and the patriarchy. And then, and use that money that we make. Yeah. Should we all go on a vacation together? Yes, we should, because we deserve it. But then reinvest it back into the female matriarchy, archetypal economy, and that's how we're really going to make a difference. So having these kinds of, circles where you can invest like 2,500 and 5,000 and not feel like you can get in, like early, you can kind of like get your feet wet, but then you see what you're providing for these female founders, it's like, it's so helpful to get them to the next level, because what ends up happening is the Series A comes along, they need more money. Maybe they bootstrapped and I'm like, well, you didn't raise any money. I don't know. No one believed in you. And because we get 1,000 more stupid questions than any white dude with a hoodie ever got when walking in.
You're so right. And I don't think that story is told enough around, like we talk about the funding gap and it's almost like, great, so women get 2%, but why? Oh, it's because the VC industry is male dominated. But it's like, well, that's not going to change anytime soon. Like we're not all of a sudden going to have this new face of VC where 50% of women are GP women. You are having emerging managers who are cropping, but there's going to take time for them to build a track record. And like, so it's going to be a slow movement towards true diversity within VC, but that is just such a small sliver of what it means to fund women. Like that's like the path to like, okay, what about the first check, the angel check, the pre-seed check, the friends and family where they don't have the access, like you said, getting 200 or 250K to start your idea is game changing. And you don't need a VC for that. Like you want to be able to build that story and have when someone tests you and like, well, why didn't you get the funding from VC? Well, because I had, 10 strategic angels who helped me to generate X amount in sales. And this is where I am. And the business speaks for itself. So I really believe in the power of the early stage investing, even if it's not angels writing direct checks to support, pre-seed female led funds, like the fund just launched their 2.5 million micro fund investing in female founders. It's led by Jenny Fielding and a team of 4 GPs, all women. And they are, they're all full-time operators who are doing this as a way, and you kind of like as a subset of their daily work. And we're seeing more of that, these operator investors who are really trying to change the game. And I love that they're doing it pre-seed because, you know, Jenny said it herself. She's like, I've never come across a female founder pre-seed who was oversubscribed.
Yeah, never. By the way, oversubscribed means that people are giving so much money that they would say, stop giving me money. Like never.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, when she said it, it's like, again, even we can be surprised by the statistics and the reality that we're facing, which is, you know, we're behind and we are the ones that are going to have to make the change. Right.
Yeah.
And we can't wait for the dudes to care more or step it up.
Yeah. No, it's true. We have to take care of ourselves. And like, look, we've never had a capitalist society where the underrepresented people who are not taken care of in the Constitution or contemplated actually had equal wealth. So what would that look like? We will take care of each other way more. And the only way to prove me wrong is when we have equal wealth. So
right.
Prove me wrong. I know we are running out of time right now. So thank you so much for all of this. But there's one question that I ask everyone at the end, and that is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, it is related to being told, don't take that job. So along the way, I mentioned I've had many career pivots, and I've had folks who said, you know, worst sounds so negative. It's like the advice I didn't listen to that I'm happy I didn't listen to. It was coming from a good place, but to say you shouldn't make that career decision, or like, why would you pivot there? You know, why would you, give up this private equity opportunity for working at L'Oreal? Why would you give up this opportunity to go to Goldman, to Sachs, to go work at JP Morgan in private? I mean, that to me has been a common theme where I've made decisions based on advice that I came from reputable folks that I just didn't listen to.
Yeah.
And love them no less, but it wasn't the right decision for me.
Right. Right. So certain situations where you don't listen to mentors, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, you just shake your head. You know what? That sounds great, but no, it's not for me.
Right. Right. Well, this has been amazing. It's so great for everybody here to like understand how you can support female founders and, get in and have opportunities to get in. So people,
I'm happy to share insights, happy to talk to anyone who's trying to get into investing or very curious about where to start. It can be a bit daunting, but once you're in it, it's really fun and exciting. Right, Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, it is. So, how can people get in touch with you? Where do they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn, and then I can share with your readers. Actually, you know what? The best place is probably the website, the syndicate, because that's easy. thesyndicateangels.com.
Amazing.
Yep.
So anyone wants to get involved to help women be, figure out how to be like Rochelle, you can find her there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.